Hello, anyone out there following the mighty YouTube algorithm. I'm here with John Steinbeck. I'll be making commentary about Steinbeck's first novel. There will be some spoilers, so if you want to read the novel first, pause the video and click the subscribe button so that you can come back here after you read it and tell me what you think about the book in the comment sections below. And now, let's get started. It is altogether fitting that one of John Steinbeck's last literary endeavors, which he did not finish before he passed away, that this endeavor should have been a retelling of the Arthurian legends. And this is because it ends a career by anchoring back to his origins, back to his first book, Cup of Gold, which is a swashbuckling historical fantasy about the real-life buccaneer Captain Henry Morgan, a novel clearly influenced by the Arthurian mythos. In fact, the old sage Merlin makes a cameo in two very meaningful scenes in the novel. Susan F. Bagel says it best when she states that Cup of Gold is a literary fantasy wherein the wizard bard Merlin can instruct the historic Henry Morgan, and the Grail quest of Arthurian legend can inform a story set largely in the 17th century Caribbean. Cup of Gold's plotline follows the historical events of Henry Morgan's life with a surprising degree of fidelity, at least fidelity to the major events of his life. But the core of the novel is the fictionalized emotions, thoughts, and desires of Captain Morgan. His life of violence and plunder are driven by his desire to make a name for himself, as he often says in the first chapter. It is ambition that drives him away from those he loves the most, from his childhood friend Elizabeth, from his family, and other meaningful people that come along the way. Interestingly enough, he never comes back to any of them, though he seems to long for a re-encounter with all of them. I didn't do research to find out if this is due to historical accuracy, but it definitely has a literary effect that makes for a tragic and very human ending to a man that seemed larger than life itself. In the last chapter of the novel, Henry Morgan ends up married to a girl named Elizabeth, but it is not his childhood Elizabeth. Near the end, in his deathbed, Henry Morgan starts hallucinating, and this is what he imagines. Henry strained his attention toward the figure. Why, it was Elizabeth coming toward him. Little Elizabeth, with golden hair and a wise young look on her face. She was girdled with cornflowers, and her eyes were strangely puzzled and bright. With a little start of surprise, she noticed Henry. "I am Elizabeth," she said. "You did not come to see me before you went away." "I know. I think I was afraid to talk with you, but I stood in the darkness before your window and I whistled." "Did you?" She smiled at him gladly. "That was nice of you." "I cannot see, though, why you should have been afraid of me, of such a little girl. It was silly of you." "I do not know why," he said. "I ran away. I was motivated by a power that is slipping out of all the worlds. My memories are leaving me one by one like a colony of aged swans, flying off to some lonely island in the sea to die." "But you became a princess, didn't you?" he questioned anxiously. "Yes, perhaps I did. I hope I did. I do forget. Tell me, did you really stand there in the dark?" So, what is the Cup of Gold? In practical terms, the Cup of Gold is the city of Panama, a city that the real-life Henry Morgan attacked in 1670. In the book, it represents the ambitions of Henry Morgan to achieve a feat no pirate had achieved before, conquering a Spanish city, a city filled with treasure, and among these treasures was a character dubbed La Santa Roja, the Red Saint, famed among the pirates to be the most beautiful woman, though none had actually seen her. The quest for the Cup of Gold is akin to the quest for the Holy Grail in Arthurian legend, for it is elusive, and once the objectives are achieved, Captain Morgan derives no true pleasure from them, and definitely not the peace he expected when he imagined a life with La Santa Roja. In the end, Captain Morgan marries a different Elizabeth who loves him, though Morgan realizes it too late. "This woman loves me," he said to himself. "This woman loves me, and I had never realized it. Can she have loved me always?" The fact that he marries an Elizabeth who is not his childhood Elizabeth, and that when little Elizabeth comes as a hallucination, she eventually becomes a red smoldering ember whose light was dying out, indicates that his Holy Grail, his little Elizabeth, was never attained, will never be attained, and as such, he never truly conquered the cup of gold. In terms of a review, definitely worth the read. I think anyone interested in Steinbeck ought to read as many of his works, but particularly this one because it's such a different book. But it has the promise of the great author that he would become. There are, for example, instances of deep philosophical perspectives that are quite good, especially if we consider that Steinbeck was 27 years old when he published it. For example, on page 184, Steinbeck channels the following insight through the character of Captain Morgan. "I am not afraid of death. No man whom I admired was afraid of death, but only of dying. You see, sir, death is an intellectual matter, but dying is pure pain." I mean, this made me think of the death of Ivan Ilyich, the idea of dying being filled with pain, and that the aftermath is solely a mystery that we can intellectualize, but we can truly never comprehend. Some deep thoughts like this run throughout the novel. I also like Steinbeck's ability to see into the lives of so many different characters and give them their desires and motivations in realistic ways. La Santa Roja is an example of this, and interestingly, she's a strong female character, both bound literally and figuratively by a male-centered world in this very masculine novel. When we consider too that this book was published in 1929, approximately 10 years after women in the US had finally obtained the right to vote, we may consider La Santa Roja a feminist character, though I think I should do a disclaimer and say that her brash words at times may seem also to match male fantasy, which may lead some to disagree with my opinion, which is that she is actually a strong female character. I mean, she overpowers Captain Morgan through her bravery and ingenuity. And finally, I'd like to return to little Elizabeth, for it is perhaps the most moving piece of the puzzle. And I'm sure many of us who were separated from our first love, either by space, time, fate, death, or folly, can relate to it. Through little Elizabeth, Steinbeck manages to make Sir Henry Morgan, a man who seemed larger than life, come to terms with his humanity in the ultimate moments of his corporeal existence. And we sympathize with this aspect of this man's existence, a man who otherwise may have been seen only as terrifying, someone bent on achieving his material ambitions no matter the cost. The real-life Captain Morgan's grave cannot be found anymore, for his tomb in Jamaica was washed away into the ocean after an earthquake. It seems fitting that a man of great ambition should have sailed back into the ocean, even after death, to continue making a name for himself. Thank you for staying till the end. If you'd like more commentary on Steinbeck or other authors, leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe if you like the video. And provided you are old enough, you really ought to get yourself a bottle of the cheapest Captain Morgan you can get, a pirate song or two, your little cup of gold, and say cheers to great literature.